Hey guys, today we're talking about one of my favourite species, and that's mangrove jacks, specifically the lures that has helped me catch them this year. So some context, last year I tried catching my first jack. It took me over 120 hours of casting. That's not prep, that's on the water casting time to catch my first one. It was a grind. This season I've caught quite a few more, found a way that works for me, so it might work for you, so I thought I'd share it. So for jacks I step things up a bit. I run a medium light bait cast setup, which to some people doesn't sound heavy enough for jacks. But I've caught some pretty respectable jacks on it, and for me, coming from like that ultralight light setups, I feel like I can fish more confidently. I also had been given the advice that a faster tapered tip in a rod does make the jacks fight less, which I've found to be true. Now, they still give you a bloody good fight, but I've had some jacks absolutely brick me on medium heavy setups, and I just wonder if I had a faster tip, if they would have reacted differently and I would have had a couple of seconds more to get them out of that structure. I pair this with a 13 fishing Concept Z slide, loaded with 30-pound braid. I run the Suffix braid because it's indestructible. There's nothing worse than losing a jack to some braid that everyone hypes about on Instagram, but truly it just keeps popping. And I run 30-pound leader. I was running 20-pound for a while, and the blokes at Tackle Shop gave me some advice, just run 30, and they were right. I haven't looked back since. Now, the reason I like specifically this bait cast is because it has this function on it that you can change the magnetic brakes on it just by sliding your thumb. So that is really powerful for me because I do a lot of skip casting. And sometimes you want to wind it back, you don't want it to skip so far. And sometimes you just want it to skip as deep as you can under a snag. And by just quickly backing those brakes off, you can do that. In the canals, you can turn the brakes up, lob overhead, and then turn the brakes down quickly and skip them under a pontoon rope. And to me, I'm never looking back. It is such a nice feature to have. So my first lure is the Crush City The Suspect 3.75 inch in bait fish. So this is my go-to lure for rock walls, pylons, that sort of structure where I'm stepping it down something. So I work it super slow and just let it hop in the smallest increments possible down a rock wall or out of a snag. And that subtle thump on the tail is a bit more relaxed, I'd say, than the heavy hitter. And I think in those sort of situations, it just presents a little bit more naturally. So my technique for the Suspect is to cast it high up on the rock wall or the structure, whatever it is, let it hit the bottom up there, and then give it 2 hops. Just bop, bop. And you're just trying to step it down the rock wall in the smallest increments you can to cover that ground vertically. Adjust the jig head weight so it's not just smacking into the bottom. It is getting a tiny bit of hang time. If you go too light, it's going to skip a lot of that structure. So hop it very gradually down the rock wall, move over, rinse and repeat. And if there's a jack there, likely he's going to try and have a go at it. Now, when the natural structure gets a bit gnarly, mangroves, heavy timber, undercut banks, that sort of thing, the 2.5 inch imposter in Bloodworm UV is my pick. If I'm feeling confident, or I'm not caring so much about getting snagged up, I'll run it on a 1/8 ounce 1/0 and flick it in snags and just work it slowly out. Or if it's really, really insane structure, I'm getting hooked up way too many times, then I'm going to run a weedless 1/0 worm hook. And if it's a bit deeper or I need a little bit more weight on it, I might just put a tiny little bowl sinker into the loop knot at the front of the hook and flick it in the snags. Looking up at this tiny little yabby or prawn imitation from where the jacks are sitting, the worm hook tucks in quite nicely, as well as if you put the bowl sinker right up against the front of the lure, it can disguise it really well. And those little legs kick, the tail flutters, and those slow controlled presentations can be enough for those jacks to come out of their snag and smack a lure. I prefer the 2.5 inch over the 3 inch for where I fish around here because it just does imitate the size of the bait that's getting around. We don't really get massive prawns and massive yabbies around here. They are that smaller size, so for me, it more matches the hatch over the 3 inch. And finally, for covering water fast, trying to get a reaction bite, especially around pontoons, canal edges, that sort of thing, I throw the Crush City 4 inch heavy hitter in whiting, white bait, or if the water's dirty, red dog. So I'm sure you've seen this technique before. Run it on a heavy jig head, cast it alongside some structure, especially some man-made structure, and burn it as close to that overhanging structure as you can. You can burn it pretty bloody quick. Jacks are fast. If they want it, they'll grab it. And sometimes that reaction is what you want. I've found especially this lure to be a big fish magnet. It is a bigger profile. It has a massive thump on the tail. big body roll. It's just something that when you're trying to get a reaction bite out of a jack, it's exactly what you want. So it's definitely worth giving it a shot. So that's my Mangrove Jack lure lineup for 2025. All soft plastics, they've just worked for me. I know a lot of people prefer hard bodies for jacks, but everyone's different. I prefer this way, and it's a lot less expensive to lose these lures as well. So I hope this gets you stuck into a few jacks, and if it's your first one, I hope that it helps you find your first one as well, because I know how much of a grind that can be. Thanks for watching.